Economically and politically, the US is facing disaster. I cover this very often here on this channel. I want to get into exactly why that is the case today and why we have a very big problem and how this will have a domino effect in all nations around the world. This right here is something that General Petraeus said. After America comes North America, and what he's suggesting by this is essentially that there is no more America and we have a union that is being formed in North America. You saw that union being formed in Europe, where now they have the EU. They always said that would never happen. It would never happen. It started with treaties and then became an official union. And, I'm not necessarily suggesting there will be a North American union. However, we see that there are laws and there are treaties being signed that go above the government structure. And this has been really the case when you could see with NAFTA, a very good example of this. You don't need a single currency. You don't need a single government, because when the laws all benefit an elite sitting on top of that, it really goes above and beyond. Let's get into some of the news right here. This is out of citizen.org, NAFTA's 20-year legacy and the fate of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Something very important to look into if you haven't already. This was February 2014, and I just wanted to highlight one part. More than 845,000 specific U.S. workers have been certified for the trade adjustment assistance as having lost their jobs due to imports from Canada and Mexico due to the relocation of factories to those countries. So right there, about 1 million workers have lost their jobs specifically because of NAFTA, and that's what they're willing to admit. But then it goes on to say the TAA program is quite narrow, only covering a subset of jobs. To the trade is difficult quality. This is the NAFTA, the TAA numbers significantly undercut the NAFTA job loss. Of course, that's just the way it's going to work. But however, they're willing to admit that a certain portion of the individuals have lost their jobs because of NAFTA. So at least we can get them to admit that, and then we look into the deeper statistics showing how this is the case. Now, when you use bailout money to open up factories all around the world, and the jobs and the factories keep closing in the Western nations, you can see that for yourself. You don't need these statistics, but it is very useful to use these in an argument when somebody is on the other side of the fence. This right here is Golden Dragon announcement in Thomasville appears set for Monday. So no longer is it just that manufacturing jobs are being shipped overseas. The nation, US in this example, is becoming so poor that they need to go to these lengths. Now listen to this. A legal notice published Thursday indicates that the city of Thomasville and others intend to give land and other incentives to GD Copper USA. Basically, that's a Chinese company and it has a subsidiary in the US. They're actually given land for free. We're talking millions of dollars worth here, just so that they would build a factory to sort of as like a public works project. This is something that goes to extreme. It goes beyond the lengths of what they've been doing before, and we can see that this is going to be taking place. A lot of instances just like this have been taking place over the past few years, and of course, as conditions get worse, it's going to be more and more widespread. This is something that I wrote about in my book. In the case of Evergreen Solar, they were given $43 billion of taxpayer money for their business and became one of the top solar manufacturers in the US. They have since laid off all of their employees and moved to do business in China. That's how this works. They take the money and they run. Just like any other criminal, they're not willing to stay around. They want to take the money and run. And in the case of Solyndra, they were given taxpayer money and they never even did anything with it. In fact, that was in the initial copy of my book, the rough copy. This is a scandal after scandal taking place, and we're not even really willing to admit that, of course, in the mainstream media. They are shipping the jobs overseas and they will never come back. It is permanent. FHFA said to plan steps to ease lending to riskier buyers. If anyone suggests that things are getting better and the economy is just getting better, then why in the world are they going to these type of steps? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and their regulators nearing agreement with the mortgage issuers on efforts to boost lending and ease banks' concerns that they will get stuck with bad loans when borrowers default. This is obviously becoming a huge problem because they need to boost up the real estate market, get it going, get people buying, and the construction that goes along with that. And of course, this is not the real strategy that a country would need if they were doing just fine. Of course, that's not the case. Banks are lowering prime mortgage standards, and you could see how the banks need to continue to lend to more and more people, but they're running out of good money, so they have to go and chase after the bad. And this is right here showing you graphically how this is taking place in the US as banks begin lending to who they normally would not be doing so. This is not just the case in the US. Of course, I covered how they're doing the same thing in China. They can continue to relax because they need to lend out to more people. Now, of course, that's going to eventually come back when you have foreclosed homes. If interest rates rise by even a percentage point, we're going to have major catastrophe across all of these nations, and that will undoubtedly bring a bigger burden on the governments when they go to bail out their citizens, as they always do. Look what happened with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and other institutions around the world. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is where I give out all my best intel for free, and that's available at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.